Well, welcome to Coffee with Vern, a time where we have intentional conversations about the gospel and we desire to talk about theological truth. Thanks for joining us. We hope you can learn and grow and be fed through this. Boker Tov, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. There was a slight pause there. I got nervous as what to say. Happy days.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. This one's coming at you live today.
Live today.
Look at that. It's Reformation Month still.
Yep.
So that's my favorite time of the year. I have some pumpkin spice on tap, Luther's Indulgence that I didn't mix strong enough.
Do you think Luther would have liked being paired with the spice of the season?
No.
I don't think so either.
But let's read what it says. Maybe he would. It says, so focused was Luther on the corruption of Rome, he never noticed his ever-growing vice, a fresh hot cup of pumpkin spice. So cheesy. Luther's Indulgence, the one he would buy. But
that's so funny to me.
Hey, if you like pumpkin spice coffee, I made it really well yesterday, and it was very good. It smells very good. Today I didn't make it strong enough. It's ground. It's not beans, and I'm good with beans. Ground coffee, I'm really bad at making. So we'll try again tomorrow.
It is the best smelling coffee that you've brought.
It is. It really is really good. They have it all the way through November, so you should get you a bag. It's kind of expensive, but it's a big bag. It'll last you a while. It's a pound. That's on tap. We still got a little bit of Atonement and Edwards and Owen. I'm supposed to be getting a couple bags from my birthday, so that's exciting.
Hey, yeah. You're going to be a quarter of a century old.
Yeah. Shout out to Aiden. His birthday's today.
Wow.
Look
how close you guys are.
His best friend.
Even in birthdays.
That's my buddy. I called him this morning and I said, yo, happy birthday. And I'm yelling in the phone. It's 8:30 in the morning. He said, bro, this stinks. I'm like, hold on. It's your birthday. He's like, bro, my dad reminded me I'm 25 years closer to death. No. Excuse me. That didn't make any sense. 1 year closer? He said, I'm a year closer to death and I'm 25 years away from 50.
Well, you're 15. You're about to be 15 away from 40.
Oh, I know. And he said, bro, like my whole body hurts thinking about it.
Oh, my.
I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
So I'm taking him to lunch. It's his birthday. Tomorrow is Evans's birthday. And then next week or whatever date it's 25th. Is that Sunday? No, Fall Festival's Monday is my brother-in-law. It's a busy month. So, but yeah, pumpkin spice is my delight. So we got some brought to you by Beller Donuts.
Oh, man.
Got a couple of donuts
We've
on tap. Sorry, Jamie. You have not been able to partake in these today. Yeah. But we are having a good time in this room.
We also treated ourselves to a Reformation Month gift.
We did.
I'm talking about our shirts.
Tenebris Lux.
Post Tenebris Lux.
Yes, and those are fire. Literally. They literally have fire on them.
Yeah.
I haven't got to wear mine yet. I'm wearing it this week. Shout out to Jesse on making sure we got those. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited. That shirt's really cool. It's got a story to it. And so those, man, missional wear shirts.
Yeah.
They're new. Have you looked at some of their newest ones?
Yeah.
Gosh, they are so good.
It is one of the sites that I frequent.
I have it say it's pulled up actually right now. I'm looking at a poster from my office.
There you go.
Here's how about this? If you bought a 5 Sola shirt, we still have a couple. I'm going to tell you what sizes we got because I know a couple people were wondering. Do
you mean if you haven't bought one?
Yeah, if you haven't. Well, I'm going to. If you haven't bought one, I have something for you too.
Oh, okay.
But we got a small. We got 2 smalls. It looks like a medium, I know for sure. And so like you might want to hurry up and get you one. But if you did get a shirt, let me tell you a little story. So Asa, he wore his yesterday, and because the shirt he had on started a conversation, another guy was wearing some kind of theology shirt. I think it might have been 5 Solas. I can't remember. And they started a conversation. He just moved here and is looking for a church. So hopefully he's going to become with Asa to church.
Yeah, that was the whole plan for these
things. If you don't think T-shirts start gospel conversations, I don't know what hole you are living in. Because they do.
They do.
The shirt I was wearing yesterday, I wore it thinking we were filming yesterday. And so
didn't happen.
I wore my Monday men one. Shout out to my men. But it said, heaven is my home. I'm just here recruiting. Mm-hmm. Had somebody at Buffalo Wild Wings comment about it. I'm like, man, just throw that rock in that shoe. That's all I'm doing.
I want you to get the other one you told me about last night.
Preach the gospel die, be forgotten.
There it is.
And it has a tomb on it. I mean, it's kind of like, and I told the students that Transform, like, oh, that's harsh. Like, yeah. But what is the point of your life, though? And it's a quote from, I don't remember what era he was in. I think he was a pastor, but it was preach the gospel, die, be forgotten. All right, now if you're like, man, that's harsh. Well, let me tell you why. Your only purpose in life is to glorify God. So for us, preach the gospel.
Well, whose name are we to be made known? Not
Absolutely.
ours.
That's right. At the end of the day, who are we to be reflecting?
Yeah.
Magnifying
Yeah.
Jesus.
So,
man, we got some good stuff.
We do.
I'm all jacked up today.
We need to announce the giveaway
It's that
winners.
time.
Yeah, we have 2. Since we didn't do one last week, we will have 2. We don't have the bookmarks in here. We do
They're
have
here.
an example.
We have them.
Yeah, we have all the giveaways. They're just not in this room.
Right. We have one because I'm modeling it.
Yeah.
But we have the coffee cups.
Yes. It says coffee with Vern on the front.
It's got coffee in it, so let me do a number.
Slowly
It's very
spin it.
hot coffee. On the back is the 5 solas, which is on the t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And these are limited edition.
Yes.
Can't just get these anywhere, people. Okay?
Can't go to Marshall's.
Can't go to Marshall's.
Get them for $2.
Can't go to Ross to get that 150 deal because it was too expensive at Marshall's. Like, you got to get it here. And so we're going to announce the 2 winners to those first 2, and then we have another giveaway or 2 giveaways.
Yeah, today's giveaway is going to be the
mug and the bookmarks.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll post today that the next one is the journal.
The journal. It's nice. It's what I use. I don't have mine with me, but I use one of these kind of journals for my quiet times and I love it. Is it that time?
Yeah. Tell me who the winner is for the mug.
Brittany Williamson.
There you go.
One of our number 1 fans. She shared that thing. She followed the right rules of sharing the podcast episode. And so if you didn't do that, you have an opportunity to win other ones though. But we got Brittany Williamson. You have won yourself and you can redeem this mug tomorrow night at church if you're here. Hope to see you there. She'll be here. And so
then we had the set of Theologian Bookmarks.
Yes. And this is a double giveaway. We're going to give it to a husband and wife.
Yeah. Husband-wife team.
Jim and Elise Chatfield together.
Yay.
You're going to have to split these bookmarks because Miss Elise, I know how you don't want Jim spending any more money on books, and I gave him a recommendation last night. So here's some bookmarks to mark all those.
He's got a ton of bookmarks.
There you go. So you have won yourself some bookmarks. We will be handing those to Brother Jim before he leaves today. So, hey, now I will say, if you're like, bookmarks, come on, man. These are good.
Yeah.
These are what I have in my books at home.
But here's the thing, too. Practically, if you read a lot of books, you know how much time you go hunting for a bookmark.
Me, I make I flip Post-it notes, and they turn into my bookmarks, and I'm tired of that.
Mine always end up being West Acres business cards,
stickers,
or postcards.
I've seen yours being a sticker.
Yeah.
You usually got some random shit. I've used Starbucks napkins in college.
Exactly. So it's nice to have actual bookmarks at hand.
Systematic book has a coffee filter in it.
Yeah, there you go.
I use what you got to use. So we want to spot you with some good stuff. We have 2 other giveaways. We got some stickers and we got a journal. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to do something like this probably at Puritan Month too because it's just fun.
Yeah.
But thank y'all for all of your love and support and wanting to get out the truth of the gospel. At the end of the day, that's all we care about. Mm-hmm. So thank you. Today, let me just go ahead and preface. Jesse has done a lot of the labor for today's conversation. And that is, I throw the stone at me. That's fine. This episode was supposed to be last week. Transform wore me out, and I was like, huh? What? Who are we talking about? Today's going to bounce back and forth. We want to give a light conversation, though, on 2 guys that are not talked about a lot, but are successors of 2 big name reformers.
Huge names.
Big boys.
That did not like each other.
They hated each other. Who do you want to start out with? You want to start out with Heinrich, or would you like to start with Philipp Melanchthon?
Let's start out with Melanchthon.
All right. So Melanchthon was the successor of
Martin Luther.
Brother Luther. He was the successor and really friend.
Yeah, a good friend.
Good friend.
But this is what's so funny to me. How was Martin Luther characteristically?
It's like pretty harsh.
Yeah, he was a harsh, brash, spitfire.
Black and white, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was Melanchthon characteristically?
He was very mild and meek.
He was very mild. He very much fulfilled blessed are the meek.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
They called him the honeycomb of the Reformation.
Yeah.
Why?
The quiet reform. Well,
I mean, honey is sweet.
Sweet, I guess. I don't know.
You know?
I have him as the quiet reformer, which is very much what he was.
I mean, I think I would agree.
Whereas Martin, and Martin Luther said this, whereas Martin was a spear, Melanchthon was pins and needles.
Yeah, light jabs.
Light jabs, very detailed.
Martin Luther went to the heart.
Yeah.
I read about Luther today in the book that I'm finishing up, Rejoice and Tremble, and it was harsh.
Melanchthon wanted to make sure that people understood the details of what Martin Luther was getting at. And so he was very much the first systematic theologian. And so he wanted to make sure that the ideas that Martin Luther was trying to get across, that people could understand them.
Right.
And know where they're coming from and why Martin believed that.
Right.
So that's what, he was a very important person in that way.
So this was a book, Philipp Melanchthon was going to be who I did my paper on in college for church history. And there's just not a lot out there on him. And so my professor's like, hey bro, you might want to do something different. But I bought this book in college because it's a biography on Melanchthon. And I remember marking this quote because I thought this was real. This said a lot about who Melanchthon was, that he was the younger colleague of Luther. So you see almost like a Paul and Timothy effect.
Well, they're both second generation reformers in that way.
Yeah, because we talked about
Bullinger
first generation guys
Melanchthon.
last week or 2 weeks ago. But he was a prodigy.
Oh, yeah, he was a genius.
I mean,
he went to university at the age of 12. He was orphaned at 10.
We thought Wycliffe at 16 was crazy.
No, this guy went to university at 12.
And see that's think about your average 12-year-old today. Let me think of bowl cut James at 12.
I know.
Hey, can you what? Like that was me. Mom, can you cut the crust off the sandwich? Like that was my 12-year-old days. My braces are hurting my back.
You didn't give me enough Doritos in my lunch.
Like that is. Can someone please punch a hole in my juice pouch? Like now we got kids. Sorry, we went on a tangent there, but I enjoyed that because I had a bowl cut. Okay, but it was a prodigy. He was a smart dude.
He was really smart. Yeah, and so he wound up at Wittenberg in 1519 at the age of 22, just as the Reformation was heating up.
Oh, dude. And heated it was.
Yes, very much. That same year, he accompanied Luther to the Leipzig Disputation, which is where Luther took on Johann Eck over papal authority, purgatory, indulgences. He was there with Luther and all of that. So he was also there, interestingly enough, when Luther debated Zwingli.
Yeah, and which is funny to me. It's just funny to me that some of these guys were very at odds. But how much they did at the end of the day, that worked for good together.
We'll see and we'll get in that with Bullinger, but a lot of the second generation reformers tried to unify all the different Reformation movements.
This is correct. Because there was a lot, you think about the countries, there's a Reformation going on in Europe as a whole, but Britain, or England, let's just say England, France,
Scotland,
Germany, Scotland,
Switzerland.
Yeah, all these different areas.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I want to remind everybody, they were unified on Jesus.
Yes.
At the end, they were unified on the gospel truth. These were other areas that they weren't unified on. Like, let's use an example. I'm sorry, I'm not going to take another bite. John Calvin and Martin Luther differed on the Lord's Supper. Those are the areas that they would differ, but they were unified on the gospel at the end of the day. Yeah. And that's a great reminder for us today in the church.
Yeah, absolutely. So Melanchthon just accompanied Luther throughout his life, basically. Everywhere Luther went, Melanchthon was there.
Yeah, that's why it says like a Paul and Timothy thing.
I almost view him kind of like your fact checker, like Luther makes a statement, and then Melanchthon would come up and say, hey, this is why. He also represented Luther in 1530 at Augsburg, since Luther was an outlaw at this point.
Yes.
So he even
100%.
drafted the Augsburg Confession. But this is where things started getting a little crazy for Melanchthon, a little hairy, because this is where he and Luther started disagreeing on things.
Oh, yes. See, which is predominantly what a lot of people know about Melanchthon and Luther.
Yeah.
Because most of the biographies say that Luther and Melanchthon were at odds. Like they don't talk about how close they really were.
Yeah. So... And because of this, a lot of Luther's followers did not like Melanchthon because they said that he dulled Luther's bold movement, made it too docile. But again, his thing was that he wanted to make sure that people understood. So he was very much in the details of it.
Right.
And so they disagreed on a lot of stuff. One of the things they disagreed on was the bondage of the will. Yeah.
Yes, we just talked about that.
Yeah. They also disagreed, surprise, surprise, on the Lord's Supper.
I knew they disagreed on that.
Yeah. And so a lot of that caused a lot of rift between the Lutheran movement, like we said before, the first systematic theologian.
Yeah, and I've got a quote about that. I'm glad you bring that up. It says this. This is something we can learn as ministers. A tireless and talented scholar, he systemized evangelical theology while Luther polemicized.
Yeah.
This puts it a bit too simply, for Melanchthon indeed engaged in polemic as well, but his theological textbooks, biblical commentaries, and ecumenical work, and the authorship of key confessions were vital in solidifying the intellectual rigor and rational consistency of the new evangelical theology.
So explain polemics to people, because it very much fits.
How would you define it first?
It was almost like it was more of what you stand against,
yes,
in light of what you were for, instead of it just explaining what you were for.
It's like it's an attack on the things that you disagree with. Right. So polemics could be defined as like attacking the things you disagree with. Like for me, it would be like prosperity gospel. I'm going to attack that because I strongly disagree with it.
Right.
So that's one of my polemical, I guess, convictions.
Stances. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so whereas Luther was more polemic,
very much attacking the things he disagreed with.
Right.
Melanchthon was more scholarly in it.
Yes.
And when I say that, he was more intellectual of processing.
Yeah.
Which there's a healthy balance in both. Like, I think for me, I mean, I'll be the first to tell you, I kind of err more with Luther. I'm bold to say, that's wrong because it's against Scripture. But there's a lot to learn from Melanchthon, because in taking that time to process, you give time for the Spirit to open other doors.
Well, see, that's why I like Luther and Melanchthon. They're a very good balance.
Balance each other very well.
Martin was like, punched you to the face. Melanchthon is like, well, let me explain to you why he just punched you in the face.
I feel like that's me and you as friends.
Yeah, I could see that.
I'm the one that's like, punch in the face. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot to learn from that. It's an interesting relationship that they had, but it's something amazing. It's just cool how God works. Yeah. And really, here's something that I took away in studying both of them is discipleship.
Yeah.
Discipleship, because that's what Luther was practicing at the end of the day with Melanchthon, was discipleship.
Make sure the next generation was prepared.
Preparing the next. Yep. Because where will we be without a Melanchthon who took what Luther had fought for and carried and moved forward? I tell you, younger people, if you're out there listening, like a good takeaway is you need to find somebody to pour into you that's older than you, a mentor.
Yeah.
Jesse's 10 years older than me. He's got 10 years of wisdom I don't have. Right. And so it's good stuff. It's exciting, but yeah.
Well, let's move on to Zwingli's successor.
The pumpkin spice is stirred within a book.
That old spice.
Excuse me. It's good stuff, though. I will say, sidebar. That's a good blend.
Yeah.
If you like spicy coffee. So,
okay.
So Heinrich Bullinger.
Yeah.
All right. Successor to the one and only who you love.
He was funny to me.
Ulrich Zwingli. The Swiss reformer.
The sausage man.
He was. Yep. I will never forget. There's what's the name of it? Oh, I got it. I'm going to look it up. While we begin this conversation with him.
So Heinrich Bullinger was only a little bit younger than Melanchthon. He was born in 1504. He was regarded as the most influential second-generation reformer. Whereas Melanchthon was the first systematic theologian of the Reformation, Bullinger was regarded as the most influential of the second-generation reformers. Yep. And again, like we said, he's the successor to Zwingli and Zurich. This was interesting that you and I both thought was amazing. During his 44 years as chief minister in Zurich, his writings exceeded that of Luther, Calvin, and Zwingli combined.
Yes, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Especially when I think of Calvin and Luther
Yeah.
and all that they wrote.
Yeah.
I mean, Luther translated the New Testament into German.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get into why and how he was able to do that. And he was born to a parish priest. Now tell me what's wrong with that sentence.
Parish priest?
Yeah, tell me what's wrong with a parish priest having a son.
Oh, yeah, priests can't have kids.
Yeah, so how did
Because
that...
they can't get married.
So, interesting.
Oops.
Yeah, no. So what happened was his father was able to be married because he was giving a bishop a yearly tribute. You let me get married, I'll pay you something
I remember
yearly.
us talking about this. It's going behind the back of the people, man. They
Like, yeah, well, if you give me so-and-so money every year, you can get married.
which is crazy when you think about it.
So he was born to a priest, but he was groomed to be a priest.
He was.
So that was his
prepared for that.
trajectory in life. It was already planned out for him. He was to be a priest. And at 12, again, we see 12. These two have more in common than we realized. At 12, he was sent to a monastic school, which is basically a school in a monastery run by monks or nuns.
Yes.
In 1519, he went to the University of Cologne, where he began to study theology. He also started reading writings of Martin Luther.
Correct.
Very influential. And what's funny is he was reading this at the time where they were burning his books.
I'm reading the stuff that's taking place is essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when they're like handed him books like, hey, throw it in the fire. He's like, oh, yeah, sure. Stuffing it in his back pocket and read it later. You know, like.
Rebel.
Yeah.
I
mean,
love
he
it.
is reading the things that they don't want him to read. And it completely opened his eyes to the authority of Scripture.
Yes.
And it's not that he got converted because of these guys. He was converted because they led him to Scripture. He started reading Scripture of his own accord, and that led to his conversion.
What happens when the people grab the Scriptures, man? It illuminates.
Yep. So all that happened when he was 17. So in 1523, so this is all, nobody knows this. This is all very much in secret what he thinks. In 1523, he became the head teacher of a school. It was a convent, basically, where he instructed monks from this Catholic monks from the New Testament and introduced Reformed teachings, replaced Mass with Protestant worship, and many of his monks converted to become Reformed ministers.
It's amazing.
All
It's
under
just
a
amazing.
Catholic roof. Nobody knew.
Well, it's kind of like Wycliffe, you know, he was in the Catholic Church, but definitely teaching against it.
Yeah, absolutely. So then he met Zwingli in 1527 when he traveled to Zurich, and he accompanied Zwingli to the disputation at Bern. And so at that point, Zwingli had Bullinger on his radar. Like, okay, this kid knows what he's talking about.
Right.
And so he kept close tabs on Bullinger, who also, after this, married a Reformed nun.
I'm a priest's son who married a nun.
This man had 11 children. This will speak to his character later. He had 11 children and then adopted more. So he was very much into the discipleship, into the serving of the others and stuff like that. And so that is when he started his writing. He started his commentaries on the New Testament. That began his writing, and it continued for the rest of his life. But the turning point for Bullinger, for his rise as chief minister, October 11th, 1531, 5 Catholic states declared war on Zurich. Zwingli was killed in this battle.
So this is how Zwingli dies.
Yep. And so Zurich was forced to accept unfavorable terms. A lot of the region reverted to Catholicism. So, Switzerland was in this very teeter-totter kind of state at this point. Bullinger started getting threatened because I said that funny. Bullinger started getting threatened. He started getting threatened, but then he fled. But he didn't flee to where you would think, like, flee in the forest, flee to some obscure part. He went right to Zurich, went right to Zwingli's pulpit, and preached. That's what he did. He preached with such passion and authority that the people of Zurich thought that Zwingli had risen from the ashes. Only 6 weeks later, he was only 27 years old, he was unanimously elected by the Council of Zurich to replace Zwingli as chief minister.
Yep.
6 weeks later, 27 years old. For the first 10 years, he preached 6 to 7 times a week, which we see is pretty common for Reformed pastors.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
I give you a gauge. Calvin preached 10 times a week.
Yeah.
So, it was all anywhere from 5 to 10.
But then we get to a point where we discover why he wrote so much and how he was able to. After 1542, he only preached twice a week, and every other day he wrote.
That'll do it.
Yeah, every other day he
So
wrote.
1542, how old was he? He was 35.
Yeah. So this is where we were talking about his character. He's very pastoral, very servant-minded. He opened his house to anybody.
Mhm.
I mean, like literally his door was open. People could just come in and stay. He would give them food openly. He would give them clothing openly.
He practiced the call of the church.
Yeah, he would give them lodging openly, and he would give them money openly.
Yeah.
You know, he was very open to the orphans,
blessed
the
to bless
widows,
others.
the exiles, which is biblical. If you are blessed, you are to bless others.
That's right.
But this was cool too. He very much opened it to persecuted brethren. A lot of persecuted English believers would run to Zurich and stay with him because of Bloody Mary.
Who we taught, oh gosh, Bloody Mary, man.
Yeah.
Killed over some 300 people.
It was crazy. So during her reign, he saw a lot of persecuted English Protestants stay in his house. Some of who became, I don't have the names, some of who became very influential Puritans. Just flowing right into the next.
We need to find out that information.
I need to dig.
We got to dig.
And then to round it all out, he co-authored the Helvetic Confession in 1536, which was Switzerland's first national confession. And then, speaking to the unifying aspect of the second generation, he met with John Calvin and William Farel to try and rectify Protestant disagreements over specifically the Lord's Supper.
Farel, man. Farel and Calvin. Are we talking
about him this? I think we are.
Farel?
Yeah, I think we're talking about him next week.
We need to. What would Calvin have done without Farel bugging him about coming to Geneva? Honestly.
So Bullinger is described as being wise and balanced.
What's cool about both these guys, though, is they followed as successors of honest bulls in the china shop.
Yeah.
You know, we talk a lot about the big boys of the Reformation and the big boys of the Puritan age.
Yeah.
We forget about those who did just as much on the back end. Because sometimes the back end's the harder life.
Yeah.
You got to wait for fruit. You got to be patient.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, thanks be to God for Luther and the sausage boy who paved the way.
Who, even though they disagreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's okay to disagree.
Yeah. And that speaks to that too.
You know,
You can disagree.
You can disagree on
Melanchthon
second,
and
third,
Martin.
tertiary.
Luther disagreed, and they were still great friends.
Yeah, and they agreed on first tertiary. They agreed on the gospel.
Yeah.
And there's hills to die on. There's hills to not die on with that. And there's great lessons in that as well. But I love the Reformation. I love the Reformers because they have paved the way for us to do what we do today.
Yeah.
Some 4 years later? Yes. 2021. 504 years later, here we are because of men that stood up and said, Scriptura is authority.
Yeah.
Sola Scriptura. I'll kind of close with saying this, I guess. There's a sticker, t-shirt, coffee cup, everything that has this phrase on it. And I was really trying to think through it yesterday. But it says always reforming. And like, what's the takeaway from that? You know, we define reform, like what does that mean as it's like turning back and changing to the foundation? But always reforming means always looking at the scriptures and making sure we're in line. Man, that is such a great thing to be reminded of. And I would encourage you, you know, as you listeners, to always be desiring of returning back to the way of the scriptures in your life. Man, it's just every time I study the Reformation, I study these guys, I'm encouraged. I'm reminded that this call is of higher calling. There have been guys that have paved the way for me and ladies who have paved the way. Martin Luther's wife being so influential. They have paved the way for us to be able to do what we do. And so we shouldn't take it for granted. It's good stuff, Jesse. Next week, we'll be back on track. We'll be good for everything, right? We won't skip out another week. We're sorry, y'all. So Transform did a number on me. I was dead. Teaching 5 times in one weekend is tough, bro. It is tough. It was so fruitful, but it was tough. And so, But hey, until then, man, enjoy you a nice cup of pumpkin spice. I encourage you to go get the pumpkin cold brew from Starbucks. It's very good. Pumpkin cream cold brew. You don't like coffee.
That's why I'm making that face.
It's chief sin. It's a chief sin. Yeah. But again, shout out to Brittany Williamson. We have your mug. You can come pick that up tomorrow if you'd like, or tomorrow night I'll be here. Jim, we'll see you in about 2 minutes with your bookmarks. And hey, make sure to advertise this episode. We still have 2 more giveaways, some stickers that are really cool. And they're good stickers. I have one on my computer right here. They're really good quality stickers. And then a really good journal. And it says the chief end of man is to glorify God, right?
Yep.
So good stuff. But we love y'all. We thank you for everything. Thank you always for your prayers and support. But until next time, go in peace. Shabbat shalom. We'll see you next week.